Jerry Haig is a retired veterinarian and professor who has written 2 books and is working on a 3rd.
Well, the first thing I had to do, which was quite a challenge, is turn myself from a scientific writer, because university life demands you publish a lot of scientific papers. You don't use adjectives. You can't say the sunset, can't talk about the sunset or the view from the top of the hill or any of that stuff. And so my first effort was actually kind of almost a disaster. And I sent it off to the Saskatchewan Writers Guild, who have this wonderful mentorship program. And they said, okay, we can hook you up with a published author who knows about these things. And they sent it off to a woman called Joan Givner, retired from University of Regina as a prof. And the basic message I got from the first couple of exchanges was, you've obviously got an amazing story to tell and you have no clue how to tell it. And so the first book evolved. That was 2002. It was called Wrestling with Rhinos, and told a personal story as well as the wildlife story. And then after that book came out, there was a bunch of other stories to tell, and I hadn't finished telling them in the first one, so I wrote another one, which is called The Trouble with Lions. And they both have a subtitle, A Glasgow Vet, in Africa or Kenya. And now I'm working on the next one, which right now the best looking title looks like being Of Moose and Men, A Glasgow Vet, in Canada, of course. I do storytelling as an activity now, just as a change from being a university prof. So to weave in life experiences with folk stories, because I think that's a fun way to go. A long time ago, when animals all spoke the same language, the king of the diks was walking along through the forest. And you must know that a dik is the smallest antelope in the jungle. It's about a foot at the shoulder, tiny little thin bones the size of my finger. And he tripped over a great big elephant turd. And he was very upset, quite cross about it. So he called all the other diks in the region, and they had a big palaver. And he said, there's only one solution. We must all do our business in the same place until we've made a big enough pile that the next time an elephant comes along, he will trip over. Now, there's a point to that story. And I always try and use biology and link it to stories, because territorial behavior in diks, they mark their territory using middens, which is an old Scottish word for a lavatory. And they will go around their territory dumping at certain points, and that's the marking of their territory. So the old explanation gives a lovely folklore explanation to the biology, and you've got to choose which one you believe. So I use stories like that in my storytelling, but of course they link back to real things. So I'm always on the search for real stories. I've been at the university here for just over 30 years, I'm retired now, but what you try to get students to get comfortable with is the normal. So if it's a normal cow or a normal dog or whatever it is, if you're comfortable with the normal, then you can start to recognize the abnormal. So when you ask, how in the hell did I deal with a giraffe? And I've written about this, what you had to do was recognize that the giraffe is just a very tall, slightly large cow. So the anatomy is almost the same. And this particular giraffe had a condition called foot rot. And so my mind could go, right, what was the last case of foot rot I dealt with in a cow? How did I deal with it? So we arranged a big tub of Epsom salts, and the giraffe had to come in and put its foot in a bucket of Epsom salts to clean the wounds. And I had to climb up the side of the pen to get the penicillin shot in its butt, because you don't have to do that with a cow, but a giraffe's a bit bigger. So it got right, it came right. I mean, I was the zoo veterinarian here in Saskatoon for 16 years as well. So this new book has got some stories about that as well. Moose in the zoo and moose in captivity and stuff like that. I worked quite a bit in Saskatchewan with radio collaring moose up in the Cumberland Delta and other areas, and we did a bunch of projects One of which was with the people at Wild Kingdom, the old movie, the TV show that we used to all watch. And Marlon Perkins was there. And I developed a technique for being able to get a dart into a moose, and if you wanted to weigh it or work with it in an open ground, it was in heavy bush, that's difficult. So what technique I developed, which I'd learned in Africa, was to be able to choose the right moment to go into the moose and grab it by the bell, and another guy goose it and walk it a couple of 100 meters or whatever out into a clearing, and then just grab it round the head and pull it on the ground. And then we could get the blood samples, put the radio collar on, weigh it under the helicopter, all sorts of things. And I've been taking students to Uganda for a number of years. The last 6 chapters of The Trouble with Lions are about that. And I've got some very moving letters back from students saying how that has affected them. That is something they will remember out of veterinary school much more than dog and cat medicine, because it changed their lives.